Hey guys, we are finally back in Greece. If you guys can cast your mind back a couple of episodes, you'll remember I built this ferry stop down here in Amudi Bay. Well, in today's episode, we're finally going to put this bad boy to use. Alright, so let's fly out here to this island where we are going to build an awesome island resort. I'm going to build some things I've never built before, and I'm very proud of this build when it's finished. I'm also going to have to do some pretty unconventional stuff, but I think I pull it off. I don't know, I guess I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But anyway, let's start with the basics out here. The first thing we need is obviously a ferry stop. And I'm just using the vanilla one again like I did in Amudi Bay. That's because we can detail this a little bit and hide quite a lot of it with some procedural object stuff. Then I want to run a very basic roading network out here. Maybe there's a simple shuttle that runs to and from the ferry stop to the hotel, and you'll also see me cheekily put a little tunnel in here that we'll come back to later on. Next I'm going to move on to doing something I always enjoy, and that's terraforming, and we need to make a good spot here for a hotel and a bit of a beach. So I want to make the beach on a bit of a cove so it's got nice calm waters, and I want to have it nice and flat where I want to have the hotel. Then I can add a little bit of sand and it's already looking pretty cool. One of the coolest buildings that I've had in my workshop for a long time is this FERRY museum, which is a Greek building, and after spending, I don't know, probably a good hour scouring through all of my buildings, this is probably the closest thing that I pictured as a hotel in my head. It's a Greek building, which is a massive one straight away, but it also looks like it could house multiple rooms, which is what I want with this first hotel we build here. There's going to be a couple out here, maybe they're sort of under the same umbrella or whatever, but this first one here I want to be massive. I want heaps of rooms here. And I guess my thinking with that is, if this is going to be the only resort or the only couple of resorts on the island, and they have to justify having a ferry service running just to this hotel, then it's got to be massive. Like, it's got to generate a lot of money to keep a ferry in service just for the hotel. So the next little one we build is way more intimate than this first one, but I think this makes sense. So now's a good time to give a shout out to Sully, who's made all of these cool little fences that you see me putting down now, these white fences, and also the buildings I put down just before these. He is going to release a Greek pack on the workshop very shortly that contains a lot of the stuff I've been using in this series. As soon as that's ready, I'll link it in the video description. So yeah, a big thanks to Sully for all of his work there, and guys, if you're on the workshop, get in there and give it a thumbs up. So now you're basically going to see me just pretty up the front of the hotel here. There's a little bit of a turning bay here for the shuttle that may run here. And then we've just got some privacy walls and some nice flowers and decals around to welcome you into the hotel. This is going to be one really fancy hotel, and out the back here in this small little bit of flat land we've got, I want to have like a basketball court and some nice tennis courts. Maybe they've introduced some really nice trees to the area as well, and it's also going to flow down onto the beach from here as well. I think that all sort of goes with the theme quite well. So I put some concrete on the ground here, the basketball court's just a decal. I run like a little fence around so if the ball goes loose it doesn't go too far, and the tennis court is a prop that I place down just next to the basketball court. I think the best part of this area is all the beautiful trees when it's done. So we're going to go straight from that over to that tunnel that you see me put down earlier. I'm going to do something pretty crafty with this, or at least I'm going to try to. I'm going to try and keep the next explanation as simple as I possibly can, but we are going to need services out here. Police, hearses, ambulances. This hotel is not for show, man. This is really going to work. We're going to have real people use all of these areas, and I don't want to plop a police station and all of that stuff out here just for this hotel. So how do I make that work? I did think about using the spawn point mod and putting the spawn point way back on the mainland, but for those of you who are familiar with that mod, you'll know that that's not going to work. The car parks where you put the spawn point mod, but the people still have to enter and exit the car and go all the way out to this island and back to the car, which would just be ridiculous. So ultimately this tunnel is going to connect to the mainland, and this shed you just see me build, I'm hoping is just going to look like a maintenance shed, so the vehicles will enter and exit this. I'm sorry guys, but before we do any of the cool stuff, we're gonna do some of the stuff like this, like coming back and detailing this ferry stop up properly. I've got the other end of our little road here as a turning bay, and I'm also putting a little bit of a retaining wall in here along the section of road, because maybe there's a few rocks that are falling down here and this just sort of safeguards the road. And next it's really about just making this area a bit more realistic. I enjoy putting way more props in this series than maybe I do with my other ones, so I'm not afraid to hammer things like rocks around where it meets the water, and with that we can finally move on to the cool stuff. Now the next thing I do is not really inspired by anything in particular in real life. It was more just an idea that I had to try and make this cool looking sort of tropical bar, or not tropical, Mediterranean would be a much better word, you know, make a Mediterranean bar that's sort of in waist deep water where you have to walk up through the water to go to the bar. So you're going to see me use a combination of procedural objects buildings to try and put something like that together. Originally I wanted this to sort of be an extension of that original hotel we've built, but in the end I think it works much better as a standalone hotel. Maybe it's way more pricey than that, you know, one that's full of people or whatever. But I would imagine that this bar area that we're building here is probably going to be open to anybody on the island. So anyway, let's get technical for a little bit. The way that I've done this is we've got our normal beach that we started with. I've used a Terra network to lower the terrain just a little wee bit in towards our hotel, and then I'm going to use some network walls to form definite edges where I want them. And of course we're using those beautiful curvy Greek walls that we've used everywhere else, and these in combination with the decals that you're going to see me put down, it just looks really Greek, and I think it helps tie it into the theme. The decal that you're going to see me use for this area is also included in Sully's pack he's releasing shortly, and it's just quintessential Greek. It looks so cool, very mosaic like, and I couldn't wait to get those placed down because this area was already looking really good at this point. Like, I was just blown away with how well this came together. The colour of the water especially I think is really bang on. You will notice that I tweak it a little bit later on with Theme Mixer to make it look a sort of a little bit calmer, and that makes it look even better. So what you see me do on screen here is put some of Sully's Greek stairs in, these nice white clay-like stairs down into the water here, and there's going to be a few different access points where we can walk from maybe a changing rooms out into the water. And you can see here that I've got this parapet / deck area here that I've strategically placed from one of these buildings where we're going to put the bar area. So a section of those stairs we just put in is basically going to go up to the bar. Sea Green Gaming has got the props that I need to create the bar area as well. These ones I'm using are perfect. So with that in place and all looking pretty good, then it's about sprucing it up with a few other props, things like bar stools and a sign, and I'm going to put a couple of barmen behind the bar serving drinks as well. And just quickly, I decided to hard mount the bar stools in because people are just going to fall over backwards into the pool without a doubt. And as absolutely hilarious as that would be, I don't want anyone hitting their head on the stairs. It's quite shallow there. Before we move on to the next bit, we're going to finish this off properly. I'm going to put a bit more furniture around here. I'm using Marco Knock 19's awesome wicker furniture here. It's got some nice round sofas. I'm also going to add like some shade sails and umbrellas, and I think that's pretty obvious. It's really sunny here. We're going to need some form of shade. This is also going to be one part of our build where people are not going to be coming out here. I haven't got any pedestrian paths around this part of the resort. All of that is going to be coming up next, but for now I'm just going to put a whole lot of prop swimming sort of people around the pool. They're all sort of wearing appropriate swimming gear and they've got towels, and some of them are lying down, so putting them around brings the place to life a bit more. And now the last thing I'm going to do to finish off this area is place down this cool like bamboo or timber hut that I found that doubles as a bar. This little gem was sitting on the workshop just dying to be used, and I'm going to put it in right here at the mouth of our little wee inlet we've made. I've had to turn it to procedural objects so it doesn't disturb the terrain underneath, which is a bit unfortunate, but I didn't really want people floating across the pool to get out here anyway. But look how cool this looks, man. You gotta swim out here to get up here and grab yourself a drink or whatever. I think that's really neat. And that is a perfect segue into what we're gonna do next. We're gonna do a massive extension of that style building, but in the form of little huts that you can rent out. I'm using Ronix 69's pier here to make sort of a random free flowing pattern, and then we're going to put the houses along this. I also spend hours doing individual detailing on each one so they all look a little bit different. If anybody's been to a place like this in real life, please let me know in the comments. I'm dying to hear from somebody who knows a bit more about it. Now I want to introduce some pedestrian paths around our beach area and all through the hotel so we can bring this to life, but I didn't want people just aimlessly walking off into the bush for no reason, so I'm going to introduce some old ruins or something here up the top of this cliff. Maybe this is some sort of old wartime structure or whatever, but for whatever reason our path is going to come up to here and we're going to have some proper people generators or entertainment cubes at these points. You're going to see me mess up all the beautiful nature scenes here with some ugly concrete paths. This is just so I can see them while I work them into place, and eventually they'll all be turned invisible. But once I've placed all of my entertainment cubes and people generators in, I need to wind the spawn point all the way back to that turnaround area so that any service vehicles coming in through our tunnel, out our maintenance shed, can go to that point there and do their thing. So with all the paths in place and that road all hooked up and stuff, the last thing to do is run a ferry line all the way from Amudi Bay out to here, and it takes a little bit while to get into gear, but eventually we get heaps of people bringing the ferry out, because I also ban all of the traffic with the traffic manager mod on all of the roads out here so that only service vehicles can use them, so people are basically forced to use the ferry. I don't really want to talk about that abomination of a ferry depot that I just tried to make, so I'm just going to move on like it didn't happen. For any of you guys that have watched me for a while, you know I'm a sucker for a bit of nature detailing, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. This path going up the side of the hill here, once I remove it, I want to make it look like it's well worn, so maybe the grass is a little bit longer off the path. So a couple of grass props later and a little bit of cunningness. This looks great. I really love the way this comes out. And eventually I decided to extend the detailing down the coast a little bit more, just because I want the view into the distance to look reasonably detailed as well. So for the next while you're just going to see me detail all of this area out with some rocks and grass. Then we are going to go into some really nice cinematics. My apologies for the short nature of this episode, guys. I've really just slapped this one together so I've got something to put out while I'm on holiday, but I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless. I'm hoping to get Greece all tied up within the next 3 episodes, so stick around if you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up if you've really enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Look after yourselves. See you later.